Now it's time for Greg Bishop and the Council Roundup.
It's Council Roundup, a program that is getting nationally recognized, at least by one guy from across the country who said, I haven't found anything like what you do with the Council Roundup anywhere. So welcome to it. Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. And I'm wearing a special Roundup shirt. The wife got this for me, Megan. It's I love it. Some of the comments on YouTube, they're digging it as well. Somebody says I need to wear a Stetson, and that's probably appropriate as well. Got a big announcement to make, and it's good news. But coming this Friday, it's going to be my last live broadcast on WMAY. That wasn't easy to say, but it's exciting. Not getting fired. That's not what's happening. Typically, when it comes to radio and media, trust me, I've seen it. I've been around long enough to see where somebody comes in for a show on a Friday, and then all of a sudden they're not there on Monday, and they were let go, and not really much of an announcement. But I have, of course, another job outside of doing this. This has been my part-time job for the past, I don't know, almost 10 years now when I think about it. Because I was recruited to start a radio network for covering the Illinois State House 10 years ago. And that has grown year after year after year, from just Illinois News Network Radio to then we acquired Illinois Radio Network, and then that grew to be the Center Square, Illinois, expanding across the country. Now the Center Square has reporters spanned all across the country, covering state governments from a taxpayer's perspective in these different states, and it just continues to grow. Recently, we just acquired Blue Room Stream, which is considered the C-SPAN of Illinois, and that's a service that people can subscribe to get raw, uncut video of committee hearings, of press conferences, and so on. And we acquired that, so I now have to help manage that as well with the great team that's already there with Blue Room Stream. So listen, my full-time gig has kept me busy. There's no question. And I love it. I love being on the ground. I love helping direct news. I love editing reporters' work and helping manage what stories are going to be focused on. And a lot of that we bring back here each and every morning. But the responsibilities are just growing so much, and I want to spend more time with my wife. For crying out loud. So coming in here, it's a lot of work. I've enjoyed this. There's no question. I've enjoyed coming in here each and every morning from 6 to 9, 3 hours. Think about that. 3 hours. Early mornings. I got to get up at like 3 or 3:30, read 3 different newspapers, chop up audio, put everything together. There's no other producer here. I am the producer, right? This size market radio, that's just kind of how the cookie crumbles. So I've definitely flexed my radio production muscle, my talk show host production muscle, my news coverage production muscle, and I'm going to keep doing that despite Friday being my last day live on WMAY. I will, and if you follow me with Bishop on Air, I'm going to continue producing content, not just through thecentersquare.com, not just through Illinois Radio Network. If you follow me on the social media channels like YouTube, for instance, we'll continue on with a truncated, more directly focused program that really is just going to look at Illinois in particular. So be looking out for that, but follow me on social media to get all those details. Just search Bishop on Air. But I wanted to take this opportunity during the Council Roundup to share that news with you, that responsibilities are growing in my full-time gig. I got to focus on that, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and I hope you follow along with me. But that means I can't come in here for 3 hours each morning. That includes all the show prep and, delving into what's going on in Washington, D.C., to what's going on at Springfield City Hall and so on, everything else in between. Interacting with callers has been fantastic. Letting you guys get plugged into what's going on with the council, for instance. I know you guys can't go to the council meetings. we in media get paid to cover this stuff, so it's been my pleasure to be able to break these things down for you in this fashion. But again, the headline here, this is my last Council Roundup here on WMAY. I started this program 12, 13, 14 years ago. And how it started, pretty simply, was I was just a young news guy in the newsroom across the window here and was covering city council and ended up finding all kinds of great stuff that wouldn't fit into a typical news story. So I had these clips. There were a lot of personalities. I'm like, this needs to be presented in some way. So alongside then host Ray Lytle, we had this council roundup where I'd cut up these clips and Ray and I would interject and put things in, context and whatnot. And then that's just evolved over time where, again, I'm hosting a morning show, doing the council roundup, a little bit of a break from that, doing the council roundup again. So over the span of like 12 or 13 years, or I think it's been 14 years now that I sit back and think about it, it's been a wonderful program, and I think it's been valuable. This will continue. It's just not going to be hosted by me. So the Council Roundup will continue with WMAY, but with Friday being my last live day this week, Friday, this is going to be my last Roundup. And it's kind of bittersweet because it was a short meeting last night. It was only like less than 30 minutes, which actually allows me to take this time to share with you that I'm going to be heading out at the end of this week. But what's great is, again, I'm not being fired. That's not what this is. This is actually great news. I'm going to be able to see my wife more, actually spend time with her in the mornings, which is going to be great. And I'm not going to be able to, just pass out at 7:30 every night. I'll be able to stay up later, which is awesome. I won't turn into a pumpkin at 7:30 at night, so that's a thumbs up. Plus, I'll be able to really focus and hone in on my reporting with the Center Square and Illinois Radio Network and getting a whole bunch more focused content, even more so. But again, I'm able to, and I'm thankful I can talk with you about this now instead of you turning on the radio on a Monday and where did Bishop go? And then finding out I got fired. I'm not getting fired. This is on my own volition. It's how this has to play out, and I appreciate you guys taking time with me and being on this track. But again, I'm not done doing news. I'm not done doing reporting. I'm not done doing hosting. Just follow me with Bishop on Air, and you can stay plugged in. Really, as things are evolving with media on your own time. So you'll be able to track along. So stay tuned. We got the Council Roundup. We'll get into it next here with Springfield's Morning News on WMAY. All right, back with the Council Roundup. I'm Greg Bishop, and if you missed the last segment, I announced that today is the final Council Roundup from me, as Friday is my last live day here with WMAY. I would encourage you to follow me on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Just search Bishop on Air, and we can connect that way. Long story short, it's been an honor to do this for the past, 16 years, it feels like. But my full-time gig is expanding, and I need to focus my sights on that. So can't come in here and do the 3-hour show. Can't do the Council Roundup production and get in here and drive back and forth. And it's time away from my wife. That's time away from my house. That's time away from my sanity and my sleep. But it has been a great honor, so I appreciate everybody for taking part. But let's get into it. Short meeting last night, and Roy Williams Jr. was the chair of the Committee of the Whole, and they had a whole bunch to tackle. Let's open it up with Roy Williams from last night's meeting.
Having the appointed time of 5:30 arrives, I would like to call Tuesday, October the 10th, 2023, Committee of the Whole to order.
So the Committee of the Whole, of course, is every other week where they deal with ordinances on first reading, and then they put them on consent or debate. But let's hear the Treasurer's report first.
Treasurer's report for the corporate fund for the month of September. The beginning balance is $73,498,760. We took in total receipts of $21,105,715. We had total disbursements in the month of September totaling $27,394,493, which left the corporate fund ending balance in the month of September at $67,200,000. $9,982. The ending general fund balance included $18,320,828, which is the ARPA money ending balance for September. That concludes my report. Thank you.
So that ARPA money seems to be dwindling more and more and more with each report as we see those dollars being distributed to where they're meant. Now, Alderman Williams he keeps things going forward.
Accept the treasury report as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No. Oh, sorry.
Next we have
That's fine. So
Next,
yeah,
we have
obviously
ordinances
Alderman
tabled or
Redpath,
remaining
his daughter is Colleen Redpath Fager. So he said he doesn't want to accept the treasurer's report. Just some good old fashioned poking fun there. Moving on though, they got ordinances to consider. Here's the first.
Clearance services with Espinal Tree Service, LLC, for a total amount payable of $10,500,000 for the Office of Public Utilities.
$10 million.
Second. Everybody will come in and
Move to debate. Alderman Hanauer wanting somebody to essentially come in and explain the $10 million cost here. So you'll likely hear more about that next week. Next up was an ordinance dealing with drainage.
Known as 1201 Toronto Road.
I'll move for consent, but I have discussion.
Yeah, and the discussion, again, what's going on here, it's got a whole bunch of like plot move to northwest side of southeast corner of plot 7-402 or whatever. But Alderman Hanauer and Alderman Redpath had questions.
What's this do?
That's what I was going to ask.
I think it doesn't have to do with wells or something like that. Or?
It can. In this particular case, there's a potential for
Works
the
Director.
groundwater to be contaminated, and it does deal with wells at times. And I'm not sure what the contamination is, but this is an IEPA closure.
Okay.
Would you get some clarification on that for us before next time?
On the actual
Yeah,
chemical? Yes,
because
yes.
that's just to the north of Toronto, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. That it affects the subdivision right off of, right across from Lake Point, I believe, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Okay, please do that.
So you want to know the compound that?
Yeah,
yes,
thank you.
Yes.
So interesting, may get some drainage work done over there. We'll keep an eye on what's going on there. Next up, an ordinance purchases some vehicles from a local dealer. Let's hear about that, keeping it local.
2023-464, an ordinance authorizing the purchase of 6 2024 Ford F-250 pickup trucks from Landmark Ford Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $380,422 under state contract number 22-416 CMS-BOSS 4-P-33728 for the Office of Public Works.
All right, putting that on consent agenda. So keeping those local, getting some F-250s. Obviously, you need city departments to have good equipment because they use the heck out of them. Moving on, let's get some storm damage.
In the amount of $43,000 from unappropriated fund balance to accommodate the overtime expenses associated with the derecho storm for the Office of Public Works.
Move for consent.
So obviously, got to cover costs from overtime when it comes to having to deal with a storm like that derecho from this spring where, gosh, that was a pretty wild storm. Alderman Donnellan has questions about another one.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director, will we be getting reimbursed for these expenses?
Yes, sir. These are the expenses that were expended for the overtime by the sewer department.
So,
I mean,
yeah.
Will we be getting money from the federal government or the state?
I believe so, from the federal government.
That's what I want. I just want to make sure. Okay, thank you very
Just
much.
want to make sure, double checking. They did have another ordinance up for consideration dealing with something similar for a different department. You got to be able to cover overtime, especially when there's a storm of this magnitude, but they're looking to get some reimbursement, so they got to do these steps.
2023-466, an ordinance authorizing a supplemental appropriation in the amount of $81,218 from an unappropriated fund balance to replenish the unbudgeted expenditures resulting from the derecho storms and to accommodate the purchase of grave markers for the remainder of FY 2024 for the Office of Public Works.
Move for consent.
Grave markers. Were they damaged or something? Grave. So they got to pay for some damage costs, but they're also going to be getting grave markers. Alderman Donnellan had questions specifically about those grave markers at Oak
Are we
Ridge.
replacing the way it reads? We're replacing damaged grave markers?
No, sir. Actually, sales have been very good, and we have sold out of grave markers.
I love it. Okay.
All right.
We are replenishing our stock.
That's kind of macabre.
I don't love the fact, by the way, that more people are needing those, but for clarification purposes, I'm just glad that we're in business.
Yeah,
Thank you.
there you go. All right. So
Any more
that's
discussion?
no, that's interesting, and I guess somewhat timely for Halloween. But getting some more grave markers, but also covering some storm damage out at Oak Ridge Cemetery, historic cemetery where Lincoln's buried.
An ordinance appointing Jason
up.
Brokaw as Inspector General for the City of Springfield.
Move to debate.
Second.
Been properly moved in second to send this to debate. Any discussion?
Will we have a resume and will that person be here so we can ask him questions?
You already got the resume. We have a resume.
Resumes.
Huh?
You got the resume.
Resumes in hand. It's just a matter of possibly having some questions from the Inspector General candidate. So interesting to hear that. We got a lot more to get to. Of course, this is just the committee of the whole. Next week, you have the full committee meeting where you'll hear likely conversation with the new Inspector General. You'll hear more about contracts dealing with the tree trimming services and a ton more. But we've got just a little bit more to cover of the Council Roundup here with Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. And again, just to remind you, this is my last Council Roundup, as my last day here is Friday. Knew about it several weeks. Just had to get all the ducks in a row and whatnot. Moving on to some bigger and better things. And obviously, I only have a limited amount of bandwidth. And it's sometimes feeling like I'm sitting in front of a fire hose with my mouth wide open. So it's going to be good to sit back and relax. But it's been a pleasure hanging out with you guys each and every weekday morning and delivering the one, the only, the Council Roundup. Yeah! All right, stay tuned. We'll get more Council Roundup coming up here on WMAY. 7:33 from Culver's West on Wabash. Let's check some headlines.
92.7 WMAY.
Here are the three big things you need.
Well, we're back with the Council Roundup, Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY. If you're just catching the Council Roundup on your way to work this morning, made the announcement earlier, this is my last Council Roundup, as my last live day is Friday. Not typical for a radio host to say adios to his audience, but that's what I got to do. My full-time gig, responsibilities expanding, need to focus on that moving forward, and I just can't come in here for 3 hours every morning, let alone the time it takes away from me hanging out with my wife and just getting some good, important sleep. One message coming in from a listener says, congratulations, you're going to enjoy having some time to chill. WMAY is going to miss you. They go on to say that they've been listening since the first Saturday show, which was back in 2006. Saturday session. Holy cow, are those some memories. Also goes on to say that, so not a goodbye, but a good move. I like that. Not a goodbye, but a good move. So that's a good way to think about it. And you can still follow me. I'm still going to be producing content. It's just not going to be live, per se. Sometimes it could be live, but still going to be news analysis and updates of what's going on in and around Illinois. So you can definitely do that and follow me with Bishop on Air, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and so on. But let's get back to the Council Roundup, where you had last night's Committee of the Whole. They're dealing with ordinances on first reading. One deals with how to address vehicles that might be taking part in pop-up block parties, and they're looking to possibly immobilize those. But Alderwoman Purchase has some questions.
Pertaining to vehicle immobilization and special events.
Move to consent.
Second.
Been properly moved in second to send this ordinance on to consent. Any discussion? Alderwoman Purchase.
Thank you, Chair. I think this would be a question for Chief Scarlett or Council. How much would those tickets be?
So the initial fine under this would be $200, but then once if it's $200 accumulated or unpaid, that's when the immobilization comes into effect. Depending on the violation, it could be more as well. This is more geared towards immobilizing.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more discussion?
Show $200 tickets if vehicles, immobilized for being at a pop-up block party improperly, then they could face a $200 ticket. So that's been moved forward. We'll see how that advances next week. Alderman Donnellan has an ordinance dealing with the length of interim appointments.
As many of you may know, back probably about 6, 7, 8 months ago, the council at the time passed an ordinance shortening the term for interim appointments from 1 year to 90 days. And this ordinance, after conversation with Alderman Rockford, changes that from 90 days to 120. And to be full disclosure here, when I first proposed the 90-day ordinance, had a conversation with Corporation Counsel at the time, and he tried to talk me into 180 days. So this is kind of the middle ground. It seems that 90 days is really can put pressure on the executive branch, and that's not what the intent was. The intent was to make sure we didn't have, without council input, someone serving indefinitely. So this would be 120 days, and I appreciate your support. Thank you.
So, again, the idea was at first to just not have it open-ended for interim appointments, which has been the problem in previous administrations. So this, was 90 days. They're opening that back up. Next, more storm damage.
A supplemental appropriation in the amount of $2,022,316 for the offices of Mayor, Public Works, Fire, Police, Budget and Management, Economic Development, and Human Resources.
Move for consent.
All right, so $2 million for all kinds of reimbursements for the storm damage that was done. There's a lot there. So good to see that at least the coffers are full to be able to cover that. Moving on, they got another ordinance to deal with.
And an ordinance authorizing a 3-year renewal of a professional services agreement with Sound Thinking Incorporated, formerly known as ShotSpotter Incorporated, for an annual resource router, formerly Connect, subscription services in the amount of $146,250 over a 3-year period for the Springfield Police Department.
Motion for debate.
Second.
So, ShotSpotter, they're looking to, amend that contract moving forward and have it go on. Obviously, that's on debate for next week, so we'll hear about that particular issue. Now it's time for citizens.
And the fire department.
Alice Rainey, she's a regular at the city council who regularly raises issues with city council members, but she shared a recent experience she had with a medical emergency, and how she is just grateful for the emergency responders, including firefighters.
And the fire department was superb. And I just want to thank them personally up here, that they don't get enough thanks for what they do out there. First responders are there right then. They don't play around, they don't run away, they're there. And the firemen don't walk around and drink coffee. They go to the fire and fight it, or whatever is the case. They need to be thanked a little bit more often than some people are thanking them.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Definitely thank those first responders. Yeah, they get a paycheck to do it, but it's not easy work, no question. But Alice had something else she wanted to address. Unleashed dogs.
Would you mind finding a way to write a nice little thing that we can pass that would make the people that do not tie their dogs up or have a leash for them, let them run, that they get fined? It's about time.
Already there.
It's already in the books.
Well, they don't use it. It's like loafing in there somewhere, okay? They don't read it. We need to have it really, really, really. Because some of these, we got a pit bull that's running, and he has no collar, no nothing on him. And then we have a Rottweiler. And the Rottweiler is really big. I mean, it's a big dog. And the pit bull is kind of shorter than that. But they run around. I don't know who has them. I tried to follow in a way when they kept running away. I could not find where they went. So I don't know where they go. But we got to make it where the little girls don't get hurt, because we had 2 of them out there riding their bikes when both of them came. And it was kind of nervy. So if you can take care of that, Ward 3, I would appreciate it. And City Council, thank you very much, and have a beautiful night.
Good night.
I'll have a discussion with the general corporate council.
Right on.
To figure out whose jurisdiction and what we can do, if we can. Thank you.
And we're glad you're back.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right.
I love how she's like, you sped up, got done with her thing, and have a good night. That's that. All right, so last night's meeting was less than 30 minutes. It's rare that we get a meeting less than 30 minutes, and that was recognized by the chair.
So, yeah, so there was some stalling tactic, or I would have had the record. But that's okay. That's okay.
Proctor's got the record at 16 minutes.
Oh, no, he don't.
Yeah, I think Proctor does have the record for it was like a 10-minute meeting or something. It was ridiculous. Oh boy, that's your council roundup. My last council roundup here with WMAY. Unless I come back in retirement, who knows? I mean, that's a good time. I'm Greg Bishop. Thank you so much for checking out the council roundup. Follow me anywhere, Bishop on Air on X, on Facebook, on YouTube. I'm still going to be producing news content. I just can't come in here every morning for 3 hours as my other job continues to expand and grow. So I appreciate all of the years you guys have checked this program out. It's definitely bittersweet, and hopefully you dug the, if you're watching online, the wonderful Western shirts that my wife Megan got me just for this occasion of the last council roundup. All right, stay tuned. We will hear what happened at the Sangamon County Board with a citizen calling in to share details, all right? One of the great things about live local talk radio is you get to crowdsource listeners who are also out on the street and engaged with what's going on. And we join now with a listener in particular who's been going to Sangamon County board meetings, which are also on Tuesday evenings, the same nights that city council meetings are. And Roseanne Polito, she joins us to talk about what happened at last night's Sangamon County board hearing where they had a meeting. Roseanne, thanks for taking time with us, and give us all the details. What's up?
Okay, the highlights of last night's meeting are they granted a site approval permit in Pleasant Plains for another solar farm. And another thing was the Pillsbury project update. He said so far they have removed 300,000 tons of garbage and debris from the site, and he was there asking Sangamon County for to chip in. Lastly, the proclamation honoring Gail O'Neill for her service to Sangamon County as the public health director, out with the old, in with the new. They unanimously voted for John Ridley to become the new Sangamon County public health director. He grew up in the area. He's a military man, 30 years in medicine. And the thing I liked about him most is he owns 4 horses, 3 dogs, and 3 cats.
Right on. It's good to have those animal lovers as part of the health sector for Sangamon County. How long was the meeting? I mean, typically they're kind of in and out, aren't they?
It was a longer meeting because of the Pillsbury update, but that was very interesting.
Well, talk a little bit about that if you can. We've got about 2 minutes here.
Well, I had no idea they've already removed the 300,000 tons of garbage and debris. What I learned was that the city had given them $2 million for the removal of the lead and asbestos. But altogether, the whole big project's going to be about $9 million. So, they're looking around for different people to donate to that. But they've
got state dollars, they've got some federal dollars. They're trying to get different layers of government to get those tax dollars to be able to fund these things. Roseanne, thank you so much for taking time and going and staying engaged with the county board meetings. And I imagine you and I are going to cross paths again in the future. All right.
Thanks for all you do.
Appreciate that. It is Springfield's Morning News on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk.